Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and today we're talking about something so many women quietly carry, the belief that our worth is something we have to earn through productivity, through perfection, through being endlessly available. And the truth is, that belief is weighing us down and burning us out. Joining me to talk about this topic is Ruth Hirshberg, a registered social worker and certified meditation and breathwork teacher who helps women break free from burnout, people-pleasing, and the impossible pressure to prove their value. After years in traditional social work, Ruth realized that so many high-achieving women were completely depleted, overfunctioning at work, carrying everyone else's emotional load, and still believing they weren't enough. So she decided to build the Self-Worth Solution, an honest, BS-free program that gets underneath the behaviors and into the beliefs driving them. She blends her clinical background with meditation and breathwork tools to help women stop performing their worth and start owning it. You may also know her from the Inspired Questions podcast, where she brings the same real talk approach to conversations about boundaries, burnout, and becoming who you actually are, not who you've been trying to be. Ruth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm glad to talk to you today. I think we have a lot in common and like to talk about a lot of the same things. So you talk a lot about the underlying beliefs women carry and beliefs that formed a long time ago and probably before most of us were even conscious they were forming. Can you talk a little bit about what you've learned about where those beliefs of not being enough typically come from?
So they form, they say our core beliefs about ourselves form before we're 7 years old. And you think when you're that young, you don't realize.
Yeah.
But these beliefs, they form from so many different ways, from, caregivers, how we interpret sort of actions of caregivers, from authority figures, which can be like teachers or coaches or, societal messaging that we got, if you live in a sort of culture that sort of says, as a girl, you should be nice, you should be kind, you should smile, all those messagings that we got as children, our little brains interpreted it. And we interpret it in a way to keep us safe. So if you think, if you caused a fuss and you got in trouble, then your little brain was like, okay, but if I stay quiet or I stay nice and I smile and I don't get in trouble, okay, what am I going to do to stay safe? You're going to sort of maybe swallow those emotions and smile through them.
Yeah.
And that's where we started to develop those messages of we're not enough, that we're not worthy. And I never want to frame it as we're blaming anyone, because could grow up in a wonderful, loving household and still interpret actions of your caregivers that maybe form some limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
So it's not to blame anyone. It's just to become aware that you do develop these beliefs, like I'm not enough, that I'm not worthy, that I'm bad, that I'm not smart enough. I mean, the list goes on of what these beliefs can be, but then you develop them when you were young and they come with you into adulthood and they act like a lens of how you see the world. So say you're at work and you get feedback from a authority figure, a boss, a supervisor, whatever. Perhaps it was just feedback, as one gets. But if you feel like I'm not enough or, I don't belong, that's the lens that you're seeing that back through. And it's going to trigger that feeling of, okay, well, what do I have to do to keep myself safe in this situation? And that might be you start overworking, which leads to burnout. You're trying to people please.
Mm.
And that's sort of the pattern of where these deep beliefs that we form when we're so young, how they just kind of act as a background operating system
Yeah.
into adulthood.
Mm. So good to bring up that it may not have been an intentional message that someone gave you.
Hmm.
It could just be the way that it was interpreted in the
Yes.
situation. I think that's important. But you hit on the example that I really
Hmm.
wanted to talk about because, in my experience, one of the biggest ones out there, that one of the biggest perspectives that needs to get shifted in, and I often see getting shifted in women, especially in midlife, is that belief that we have to do more, we have to accomplish more. And many of us have spent our life on this
Yeah.
hamster wheel of, okay, I did that.
Yeah.
What's next? What's not? When we're talking about our careers and our goals there. And
Hmm.
it's really tricky trying to get off that and sort of reset. And so I wanted to ask you,
Hmm.
with your experience and the work you've been doing with women, what are some of the most effective tools and tips you've seen, especially around that one, to shift the perspective a little?
You have to believe that you are worthy of getting off the hamster wheel. I mean, I think that we are told, well, if you just took better care of yourself, you wouldn't feel overworked. If you just carved out time for, that self-care,
Yeah.
you would be able to balance everything better. First, I feel like it's very important to address that we blame ourselves for feeling that way. Like we blame ourselves, oh, something's wrong with me because I can't keep up. I'm not managing my time well. I'm not doing things properly. And it's not an us problem. It's a big problem. It's the messaging that we're getting from societies that we have to do all of these things. So I think the tools are important and we can talk, like I'll talk about that, but I think it's remembering that this is not a you problem. It's a bigger problem. So you're not the issue because I think we internalize it. We blame ourselves. And then all the tools in the world are going to be great. But unless you believe that you deserve them, unless you believe that you're worthy of them and that you are worthy of that care, all the tools in the world are never going to you can do it for a day, but you're going to feel guilty. And then you're going to stop and kind of fall back into that old pattern. So I think it's really important to address that deeper belief while also understanding that it's a bigger problem of the messaging that we get, especially
Yeah.
as women, that we have to do it all.
I agree with you. I think the challenge though is, like, I think about another one, it's setting boundaries and being able to set boundaries. And I know you
Yes.
say, well, it's not just about setting boundaries, because before you can do that, you have to feel worthy of being able to set boundaries. But I think that's the trick, right?
Yes.
It's a loop. So it goes back to
How
what
do
you
you feel
just said.
worthy? Yeah.
How do you, with for all of these, like, great, we can say it's not going to work until you feel worthy. But how do women start really changing that perspective so they can start feeling
Yeah.
worthy? And let me just add, I think very often we know in our head, we know that we're worthy. We know that we're enough. We can see it on paper. All the things
Mm.
say that we should feel worthy, that we should be enough,
Mm.
but we still don't feel it inside.
Hmm.
So, where do you see that start shifting?
Awareness. Awareness is forever the first step because
Yeah.
we go through life on autopilot and
Mm.
I'm going to give an example. I can give examples from client lives, but I always feel like giving my own examples
Sure.
is great because I feel like I live it. Like I live this. I've lived it in the past. I live it now, and I'm not. I I always want to make clear, like I'm not perfect at it.
Yeah.
It's work. We constantly have to work at it. So the first step is awareness. This morning, I feel like it's so fresh in my mind. It's a great example. So I have my wellness business, and as I mentioned, me and my husband have a dog walking business as well. And this morning, my husband said to me, "Oh, I can manage this on my own. Why don't you stay home and do your other work?" Because I had planned, I would go do my dog walking in the morning and come home and do my other work in the afternoon, which is how I usually have my days. But he said, just stay home, do it. Like, give yourself an easier day. And in the moment, I was like, well, I can't do that. Like, then I'm not pulling my weight. And then I feel guilty. And, that old belief system of like, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. So if I don't go, I feel like I'm failing. And so I went. And 15 minutes into the drive of us going to work, I was like, I made a mistake. I just jumped into that old thinking and I should have stayed home and done the work because that's not true. I do pull my weight. I do, I'm not guilty. I do my own, like I do a lot of work. And it's awareness. I was able to catch it. I mean, in this circumstance, we were already driving. I couldn't come home. I couldn't change it. But it's building that awareness of when it's happening in the moment.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. And then the second step is understanding where some of these beliefs come from. For myself, I had for a very long time this belief that there's something wrong with me. I like truly believed something was wrong with me. Like I was not enough. I was not like everybody else. And I didn't know where it came from until I really sat down and I thought, when I was younger, when I was a child, I was very quiet. I loved books. I didn't particularly like hanging out with kids my age. I just would rather, like at recess, sit in the corner and read my book. And I constantly got the message from teachers, well, she needs to speak up more. She needs to apply herself more. She needs to do this. She needs to do that. And then I'd go
Mm.
home and I'd see my wonderful siblings who, in my child eyes, obviously as an adult hindsight, I can see it wasn't always this way. But as a child, I was the youngest of four. To me, it seemed like they had it all together. They had their friends. They did well at school. I had friends, but again, I would rather be with my cat and my books. I struggled with school. So for me, then I'd go home and I'd also feel like, well, something's wrong with me. Why is it so easy for them, but it's really difficult for me?
Mm.
And I realized, oh, so that's where it wasn't that anyone was ever saying to me, something is wrong with you,
Yeah.
but my little brain interpreted the feedback I was getting from the teachers, the way I saw that, things were easier for my siblings than me, which again wasn't the case, but that's how I interpreted it, is I got this message or I developed this belief that there was something wrong with me. So understanding where it came from also made me understand that it's not fact. Like just because it comes into my mind, just because it's a thought, just because it's a story that I tell myself doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
So it's like building the awareness of what the beliefs that are going on are, understanding where they came from. And when we get to that point, then we can start challenging them and then we can start shifting them.
Mm.
So that when we do run into those situations of something happens in my life and my automatic thought or the belief that's triggered is, well, something is wrong with me. And then I start falling into the patterns that I do to protect myself from that belief. Like for me, overworking, it used to be people, I'm much better about it, but it used to be a lot of people pleasing, when I fall into those patterns, which never ultimately work, and then also then reinforce that, like that limiting belief.
Yeah. The
So
cycle.
then, yeah, it's a cycle. So you have to break that cycle. And that starts with awareness, that starts with understanding. And then it starts with the tools of sort of being able to ask yourself, okay, how true is this thought?
Yeah.
What evidence do I have that supports this thought? What evidence do I have that contradicts this thought? What's another way of looking at it? Even just asking yourself, what would I tell a friend if they were telling me about the situation? Because almost always the advice that you would tell your friend is very different than what you would tell yourself. And I feel like if you're
Yeah.
going to do anything, even just ask yourself that question and
Yeah.
notice the difference because it can be really eye-opening.
Yeah.
And so it is possible to shift that belief. And I always say it's hard work. It's like any kind of muscle or rewiring of your brain. Like you have to work at it. It takes practice. It takes repetition. It's never going to be totally like one day you're fixed because we're
Yeah.
not fixing anything. Like
Agree.
again, I've been doing this work for years. I feel like I've made so many great changes and I know what to do. And in this morning, I fell into the old pattern. Like it
Same.
happened.
Yes.
But then you realize it and you go, okay, what can I do differently next time? And next time next time he says to me, hey, why don't you stay home? I was like, yeah, that's great. Why wouldn't I stay
Right,
home?
right, right.
So yeah, so I think that is that is the first sort of steps of shifting that belief to something more helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. And I do think the awareness for me that, once you start becoming self aware, it's catching yourself like you did and then closing the gap.
Hmm.
So it's a shorter
Yeah,
recovery, if you
exactly.
will, recovery time, right? So maybe next time you'll be able to recover and realize it in 10 minutes instead of 15
Yeah.
minutes. And maybe the time, after that, it's just before you get in the car so you can stop it. But yeah, hopefully it progressively gets better. But you also made me think about, I can relate to kind of tying it back to my childhood too, like the overworking and always
Mhm.
trying for the next thing. I can clearly remember, and again, I've done a lot of the work as well, same as you, but I can now look back and say over and over and over and over, I had a parent who, and I grew up in a fairly well balanced home and it
Yep.
was, normal ups and downs like everybody else. But I can clearly remember that if I brought home, it could even be an A minus, but let's just say a B. It's why wasn't it an A? Or
Mm.
it might have even been like alluded to that
Mhm.
I could have did better than that. And it was always that feeling of no matter what it was, I could have done a little bit better. And I know that came from a place of I excelled at school. I did really well educationally. So I think the expectation there was that I could easily
Mm.
get those A's. And so it was always like, and I can now tie that back and you just know that no matter what it is, you're always thinking, I should have been able to do. And as I started raising my girls, I definitely had to catch
Yeah.
myself because I would go into that pattern too. So it is important to tie it back. But I will say sometimes you can't tie it
Yeah,
back.
absolutely.
And I think at that point you just have to say, this is some old messaging, not sure where I got it, but I'm
Yeah,
recognizing the pattern.
you're right. I don't know that you could always tie it back, but it's again, if you still have that awareness of it and awareness
Yeah.
of how it impacts your life and awareness of how those patterns then reinforce that limiting belief,
Yeah.
you can still make the change. If you can't, it's not like you're not going to be able to do it because you can't figure out where it came from.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
still possible.
Yeah. Another one that I'm thinking about that a lot of women fall into is the I'll be worthy when.
Oh gosh, yes.
And as somebody that's lived I still live in I'll say chubby body, but I've lived in a much bigger body at one point. I know so many women that lived with the when I'm thin
Mm-hmm.
or when I'm healthier, I'll
Mm-hmm.
be worthy of it then. And that might be worthy of wearing the bathing suit, worthy of taking the picture, worthy of the vacation, whatever it is. That one's really hard to change
Yes.
too, but so dramatic of a life shift when you can change it. What's your experience with that?
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think it's one of the ones that I still struggle with a lot because I also live in a chubby body, larger body, whatever you want to say. I am who I am. There's more of me, but and I've lived like that most of my life, and except for periods of unhealthy behavior that led to a much thinner body.
Yeah.
And, I've struggled with that. And I definitely live by that mindset as well. I'll do this
Mm.
when I'm thinner. I'll do this when I am healthy, which is funny because it's like, what does healthy even mean? I don't think we
Yeah,
know
right.
half the time.
Yeah.
Because when I was much thinner, I was not healthy because I was, I struggled with struggled with disordered eating a lot throughout my life. So it held me back. I think I would have if I had not had that belief, I would have maybe made different changes, like even around my business now and my podcast. Like I think in the beginning it was a little bit like, do I want to put myself out there? Like because I am a larger person, are people going to judge me? Are people going to want to work with me? Are people going to believe that I can make them change because it's like, oh, well, look at her. She doesn't have it together. There were a lot of those
Yeah.
beliefs. And then I realized one day, I don't know, it didn't happen one day, but it was a journey and it's still a struggle sometimes. I take the picture and I'm like, I'm gonna post this on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. Like I I don't like this. It's not flattering. Or you make sure the angle looks good. So I am still guilty of that.
I think the reality
Yes.
is everybody's guilty of that,
We
right?
are guilty of that, but it just not letting it hold you back, because you know what?
Yes.
My value is not in my size. My value is in like what is in my heart, what is in my brain, what is coming out of my mouth. That's where my value is. And I've started putting myself out there more, I recently put out a video of me talking in front of a group, and I was so uncomfortable with it because all I could see is like, oh, my face looks so round and the double chin and the everything, like, all the self-criticism. But I still put it out there, and I got such great feedback. It had nothing to do with my how I appeared,
Yeah.
because it wasn't about my appearance. So I think it's a little bit like the more you do it,
Yeah.
the more it gets, the easier, not the more easy, the easier that it gets to do. And just not caring. I think one of the beautiful things about getting older for me has been that I stopped caring what people think.
Yes.
Like, I don't know when, I feel like when I hit 40, a switch in my brain went off. I
Yes.
don't quite understand it. Whereas just like, I don't give a shit what they think. Like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
I love that.
Because the people who do matter, my husband, my friends, my family who care about me, like it doesn't matter. They're the ones whose opinion matters, and they don't care about those things. They care about, again, me inside.
Mm, I love that. I love the authenticity. And I think it is the more you do
Yeah.
it. I can relate to everything you said and experienced all those same things when I started doing this
Yeah.
show, 3+ years ago now. Same thing. I was so scared to press that button and release that episode. And there's still things that I do. Like there's, for a year or so, I didn't put anything on linked
Mm.
because I was afraid of kind of letting my
Mhm.
professional side of the world see me in this side. And I actually have something queued up that's going to release in a couple of weeks that I've not done before, but people have been asking me to do. And it's like each step is like, ooh, do I really want to do this? But I think that's part of the magic, is
Mhm.
just pushing yourself to continue to try to better yourself and try new things and keep yourself engaged.
Mhm.
But I think it's important to tell people it's, you're not there. You don't get, like you said, fixed. It's not like, oh, I recognize that I do this thing, so now I'm never going to do it
Yeah.
again. That's not real life.
No.
And then the only other thing I want to say about, just back to you about, would people come to you and work with you? The thing I've realized, and now I see over and over in patterns of, is that most of us, when we're trying to do something, whether that's learn to bowl, whether that's learn to paint, dance, figure out how to master this mindset type stuff, you just need somebody that's a couple steps ahead of you.
Mhm.
They don't have to have it all figured out. In fact, I think most of the time we don't want somebody that has it all figured it out. Figured out. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think that's the reality. So, it's
Absolutely.
real life.
Well, because you never get to, there's no end to the journey. Like, you can always do more to learn. You can always do more to shift. Like, I work with my own coach because I can see where I kind of hit a wall of my work on my own, and I needed to take it a step further. And I think that I will forever work with someone, because I know that it's a constant, I don't want to say improvement because that implies that there's something wrong.
Evolution.
Evolution. Oh, I love
Evolution.
it. Yes, evolution. It's a constant evolution. And I know that when you stop, things get stagnant.
I think it's so important to bring that up. I think the topic of transformation and personal development, I mean, we both feel strongly about that, obviously, but I think it's important to distinguish between growth that sort of nourishes us, that fills us up,
Hmm.
and change that's rooted in shame or thinking we have to change because if we do this or we become that, we'll be good enough. And I think that's important because I think sometimes people look and they're like, oh, well, why are you always working on these things? Like, why do you think there's something wrong with you? And I think that that's not the case. It's just the whole world's changing. Everything's changing always. Why wouldn't we keep changing too?
Absolutely. I agree completely. I think, again, we're told it's this sort of systemic message that we get. For someone who works in the, I guess, wellness industry, I have a very big issue with the industry and the messaging around personal development and improvement and all of that, because I think it is very shame-based. It is very much, we are being told that there is something wrong with us because capitalism exists. People want to make money. You're going to buy the new weight loss drug or plan. You're going to buy these clothes. You're going to put on these creams. And I'm not poo-pooing those things in, like, there's nothing wrong with them, but it's sort of the reason why we turn to them. That's what I have an issue with. And it's the messaging that we get, that you're trying to fix yourself. If you could only just fix yourself, if you could only just be more positive, if you could only be just, it's just one more way to make us feel like we're not measuring up. Where, again, these things are not inherently bad. If you want to wear the clothes, if you want to do the weight loss stuff, if you want to do the skincare. I mean, I love skincare, so there's nothing wrong with that. But why are you doing it? Like, it's really is that reason, that deep reason. Are you doing it because you have been made to feel shame about who you are just in this moment? Or are you doing it because you want to grow and you want to evolve? You want, you want to just see what's out there. It's like, are you curious? Like, I think it is very much that sort of why. What's the why behind it?
Well, and I think that ties a lot to the point you make about, because you stress, I saw on your website, I saw on, some of your documentation, you stress you're targeting the behavior change, but only after understanding the beliefs that are driving them. So it's not just changing the behavior, it's where is it coming from and why is it coming? So I think that sort of ties into that, right? Is really understanding what's behind it.
Absolutely. It's sort of like, I think for a lot of people, it's easy to understand when you kind of use like, you go to the doctor and you say, hey, I have itchy skin. I don't know why this is. I'm just trying to think of an example. I have itchy skin. And they don't say, well, why do you have itchy skin? They just say, oh, here's a cream, slap it on.
Yeah.
And so you're treating the symptom, it's not getting better. And they're like, okay, well, we'll try this cream. And it's like, but if you go to the doctor and you say, I have itchy skin, and they're like, okay, let's figure out why you have itchy skin. So it's like, you can treat the symptoms, but unless you treat the cause, it's never going to fully, so you can put the boundaries in place. You can tell someone, I love affirmation. Look, again, I love these things. Like, I love affirmations. I love boundaries. I love these things. But unless you sort of work on, and it's not treating, because again, we're not fixing anything, but unless you kind of look at and work on the cause, which are the beliefs, then treating the symptoms, treating the behavior is never going to be sustainable.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Talk to me a little bit about, we both talked about as we get older, things just do naturally get easier. I mean, they really do.
Easier and harder in other ways too.
Yeah, that's true too. Like, physically, the body, it's a little harder. And I imagine it'll continue in that paradigm as well. Easier and harder. Yeah. But I think one of the things that happens at this time in our life as well is our identities tend to shift naturally. For many of us, it's children go off to college. We may change careers because it's, been such a long period of time. Maybe we go back to a career that we've been out of for a long time. All the things. I'm curious if you think that is helpful in trying to do some of this work, those sort of identity changes?
Mm.
Or do you think it's makes it harder that we're trying to sort of figure out our identity at the same time?
What an interesting question. And one that I've not been asked before, but I think it's exciting.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's like I feel like I have pivoted so many times in my life to different things for good and for not so great reasons, but I think it's exciting when you get to sort of not create a new identity, but you can sort of see who you are at this point in your life. And what an amazing time for self-reflection at that point too, which is that awareness.
Yeah, that's it.
So I think it's a great time to sort of start looking at those things. And yeah, I think it could be really fun and exciting.
Yeah. I think the self-reflection is the word for me. I think it's a time where
Hmm.
when you are sort of switching
Yeah.
or uncoupling yourself from an identity, I think you're
Mhm.
doing a lot of that self-reflection anyway of the who am I? How did I get here? What did I really
Mhm.
want to do and be? And all those questions. And I always put the caveat that doesn't erase what we did. That doesn't mean it was bad. It just means going through a change. And I think that therefore it leads to, or it lends to being a great time to sort of do the reflection on some of this stuff as well. And
Mhm.
sort of what beliefs brought me to
Absolutely.
this place and which ones aren't serving me anymore
Yeah,
that I don't want to take to the next.
absolutely.
So in your work, you've built this self-worth solution program, and you're covering all these topics sort of that we've been weaving in and out of. Talk to me a little bit about any trends around breakthroughs. Like, is there anything out there that sort of seems to be a pattern when it clicks for women? So we talked about how you need the self-awareness and you sort of got to do this work to unravel all the beliefs and understand where they come from and start shifting your thoughts. But do you actually see any patterns where something that makes it click for people?
The hard answer is yeah, when they put the work in, that's when you sort of see those big moments, which I feel like sometimes is the hard thing
Yeah.
to hear because it's like, oh, hard work, oh, but it's worth it. And I think it's when the first time that I see women realize, like when they kind of work through those questions that I was saying, like, that you have the trigger of the sort of the belief, what supports it, what contradicts it. And we go through these questions, and at the end, it's like, oh, well, do you still believe that belief? Like, how much do you believe that belief? And when they're like, oh, wait a minute, like when I see, because as a social worker, I did a lot of training and certification in cognitive behavioral therapy. Like, I loved it. I found it so interesting. So I do bring pieces of that into my work now. And one of them is the thought record, which is how we do sort of challenge or try to shift that belief. And it's in that we ask ourselves, like, how much do you believe this belief is true percentage wise in the beginning, and then how much after we've worked through it. And when they see how, like, when you see that shift and they're like, oh, wait a minute, like, I don't actually believe this is true anymore. And, like, I literally just want to do a dance. Like, those moments are, so it's asking yourself, again, you have to do the work. And I shouldn't take hard work because then that's going to put everybody off. But like when you flex those muscles, when you keep doing it and you start
Yeah.
seeing that, it makes you want to keep doing it because you're like, wait a minute, I don't have to function from this place where I believe these things anymore. And when I see that, it's so exciting.
I bet.
That first moment where they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, yeah. I've not heard of that scoring before, but one of the things that I love is when somebody has a strong belief about something or they say it like it's the most firm belief
Mhm.
and you challenge them to challenge in a good way, but challenge them
Yes.
to like, give me five, even if you say just give me two other
Mhm.
possibilities, two
Yeah.
other things that might be true, just possibly could be true too. And you force them to come up with two alternative versions. even that I've found tends to really shift how much they're tied to that original response because you force their brain to go, oh, well, maybe it could be. And,
Mhm.
given that alternative version, it's just such a cool exercise because I just think we weren't taught to do that naturally.
Absolutely, absolutely. And another one, which is from Brene Brown. I think she said it in one of her talks or specials, or I don't know, she does
Yeah.
everything. So was she said she'll ask herself, what is the story I'm telling myself right now? And I have started doing that. I like for years now, I've started doing that. And I will also tell that to clients, what is the story that you're telling yourself right now? And I put emphasis on the story because when they're like, well, I'm telling myself, I'm like, but do you not see how that is a story? Okay, what is, then we can sort of, what is like, what is actually happening? And then they can see like, oh, well, you can see how like so much we can believe our thoughts are true, but they're not. Like our thoughts aren't thoughts. They're automatic. We can control them to a certain extent, but they're gonna flow. They're gonna happen. So it's sort of recognizing, oh wait, that isn't true. And I can look at it a different way. So there's so many different ways to get to the same destination.
Yeah, it's learning to recognize the pattern and to take the pause. It
Mhm.
really is. I think what you just said about the story, I thought about the holidays. This by far the fourth quarter of the year is like my most, this is not a story, this is reality. Crazy time of year. It's just there's a lot personally. There's so many things that happen. Like we have the
Yeah.
holidays, but there's also multiple birthdays and just anniversaries. There's just a lot of things that happen between like October and we'll say January. And so it's always sort of a extra stressful, if you will, time because I'm just trying to jam pack so many things in.
Mhm.
And I got caught up just before United States Thanksgiving and I found myself like, oh my gosh, only this many weeks till Christmas. And then I'm going away on vacation. And I started to do this thing in my head. And I was like, slow down, girl,
Mhm.
because all you got to do this week is blump, 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 blump. And then you can easily get next week, blump, blah, 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 but it was taking that pause. If you don't take the pause, you can
Mhm.
quickly just go into that pattern of whatever it is for you and get super anxious, get
Mhm.
into the, oh my gosh, I got to do, and I'm going to fail and blah, blah, whatever it is, whatever your story is. So I really think it goes back to the self-awareness and taking the pause to sort of
Absolutely.
reevaluate.
Absolutely. And that's why, like, for me, meditation and breath work became such a big piece. I dabbled in things growing up, like what would work for me. I like explored different things. And then when I was sort of towards the end of my practicing social work days, I was very burnt out and I was like very burnt out. And I was at my lowest point. I was depressed and things were quite bad. And I knew something had to
Yeah.
change, but I didn't know what. Like I was just so overwhelmed. And I couldn't even tell you why I thought about meditation or breath work, how it even started. I mean, it's been years now, but I don't remember where. But for me, that became that pause. And it still is. Like when I also go into that thinking of all the things that I have to do and the little time that it takes, it's just sort of is sitting down and taking even just one deep breath and just saying, like, just take that breath, take that moment, and then
Yeah.
look at it when my nervous system is maybe a bit calmer than when my nervous system is super activated and I can see it more clearly. And that is why meditation and breath work is a piece of every work that, it's a piece of my podcast. It's part of the course. It's part of everything for me. And it's not, I try to tell women, like, you can make it what you want it to be. Like, it doesn't have to be sitting perfectly zen and, like, not moving. Like, I'm scratching myself and I'm shifting while I'm doing it. Like, I'm not going to win any awards for being the perfect meditator or whatever, but I still every day carve out that time to sort of take that pause, take that breath, look at sort of where things are and where I want it,
Yeah.
to go. And so it's figuring out for yourself whether it's going for a walk in nature or, taking that deep breath or Whatever it is for you is finding your way to pause.
I love that. I swear if this could have been a perfect setup, but this will air after. So I mentioned earlier that I was going to release something new, coming up here in the next month.
Mhm.
And for me, that's been, people have consistently been telling me I should do meditation. And so,
Oh,
but like you just said, I'm not somebody that has ever gotten into traditional sit down for 30 minutes and do
yeah.
meditation. So what I released by the time this airs, is like an 8 minute, 8 or 9 minute. I don't remember. It's like it's under 10 minutes, but it's really a pause. And it's just a walk through a few moments of recalibrating, pushing off all the things we think we got to do, all the things that are on our list, blah, 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 and just coming back to ourselves for a minute. And I was really anxious about recording it and releasing it. And I actually just listened to it last night. Again, this will come out much after it's
Mhm.
been released, but I'll actually put the link in the show notes. And I was really proud of it. And I was like, this is good. This
Oh,
is good because
yay.
I got calm when I listened to it. And I was like, this is the point. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a 30-minute sit down. It just can be and
No.
even 8 or 9 minutes might be too long. You can really just do it with a moment and a couple of deep breaths. So I think it's important to find the
Yeah.
thing that works for you and explore different things and make it work for you. So
Yes.
that was a great lead in, even though it's a little late, but good. Depending on how the episode is received, maybe there'll be another one in the future. But yeah, that I couldn't agree more with all that.
I love that. I love that you did that. I mean, I think everybody should try to do like I am maybe a bit preachy about meditation and breath work, but I agree with you. Like I think it is not everybody wants to. I mean, I have this goal one day to attend like a 10-day silent retreat.
Wow.
That is like a goal. I'm like, I need to work up to it. That is way off in the future, but that is like a bucket list thing of mine. I don't know if I think I would go crazy by the end of it, but that's beside the point. But yeah, no, I think it is. I say a lot to clients, your breath is first of all, it's the one thing about your nervous system that you have any kind of control over. You can't control most of your physiological reactions, but you can control your breath.
Yeah.
And you can do it, it's free, and you can do it anywhere.
Mm.
And all it takes is just sort of being mindful and taking that deep breath. And I've done it in the car, I've done it in the grocery store, I've done it everywhere when I feel like I'm getting, that kind of
Anxious.
that anxious
Yeah.
activation, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. I tell everyone, regardless of what your thing is, really the breath should be everybody's thing because it is. It is free, it's accessible anywhere, and it's yours.
Yeah.
It's yours to do with it
Yeah.
what you will.
Yeah. Just learn to use it. Yeah. Well, I almost feel like that should be our closing message, but I always like to ask my guests
Mm.
if they could only leave our listener with one message,
Mm.
what would it be?
You are enough. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You are enough as you are in this moment. And you just need to feel that in every fiber of your being.
Love that. Well, I will put all of your links. There are multiple in the show
Yeah.
notes. But where is the place you are most active if you want people to, choose one to check you out? Where would you send them?
I mean, Instagram, can I give two?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not great at narrowing to one. Instagram, I'm pretty active. And also I have a free Facebook group called The Enough Project for women who are struggling with all of all of these things, these beliefs. And it's just a community of women talking about real life. And again, it's like empowering each other and learning from each other. So you can join us there, or, you can message me on Instagram. I'm always happy to hear from anyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Message in the Middle. I hope you found something in this conversation that reminded you that you're not alone and that midlife isn't about winding down. It's about waking up. You're not done. You're just becoming. If this episode speaks to you at all, please share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And if you're enjoying the show, I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave a review. It really helps other women find this community and this podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself.